I'm in the city of Bristol and I've come to the suburb of Eastville, and this is Greenbank Cemetery. The sign gives the impression of being rather neglected. Just inside the main gate is the war memorial. Very impressive. Each of the panels has around 12 names showing. This is one of the first ones I note. Commences at the top with volunteer C.W. Abbott of the Home Guard, 1941. Able Seaman E.J. Adams, 47. Bombardier R.A. Adams, 42. And so on down the list. And at the bottom, Sapper W.G. Belcher, Royal Engineers. Another one of the panels taken at random, Gunner R. Randy, Royal Garrison, Volunteer J.J. Ratchford. And there are around 20 of these panels with 12 names on each. So we're looking at close to 240, 250 men from this part of Bristol who gave their lives in the two wars. One of the things I notice on this memorial is that the names from both wars are completely mixed up. They're in alphabetical order, but 1915 at the top there, 1918, and then the Second War, 1940, and then the First War again. Usually on these memorials we find the First World War on some plaques and then the Second World War on others. Quite a number of reasonable sized memorials we note as we come in. Rather nice statue of an angel with the wings open. We come down through the plinth with a big S on it to Frederick Smith, who was just 47 when he died in 1923. Depiction of a young lady in relief on this stone, standing in an arch with flowers over the top. And at the bottom we see it's to James Humphreys, could be 16, age 68 years. We have a column design here in a black stone with a sort of urn on top. And this is to Emma, the beloved wife of William Venn, 1907, aged 70. And there are other Venns beneath that. Now the cemetery was opened in 1871 and I'd heard it was closed for burials, but clearly they're trying to squeeze a few more in. Oddly, they've actually put these recent burials on where the path used to run. That shows the sort of desperation they are for space. Across we can see two chapels of rest. Quite normal in the Victorian period to have two chapels of rest. One would be for the Church of England, and the others would be for the nonconformists, Methodists, Baptists, even Roman Catholics. The two didn't even seem to mix in death. This is a modern grave. This is for Heather Sims, who died 2019, aged just 20. What interested me was what was written on the reverse of this stone. And here it reads, "This snowflake is an avalanche." Now, snowflake, at the present time, is generally a derogatory term for someone that's ultra sensitive about things. So I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say here. This snowflake is an avalanche. Was she ultra sensitive about everything? A tall pillar And a rather sad memorial on the base here. This reads Arthur Benjamin, the eldest son of Ben Gay, who after a lingering illness departed this life 1886. But the sad thing was he was only 15 years and 9 months and had a lingering illness before he parted. Up near the Chapels of Rest is another war memorial, 1914, 1918. That's just a general war memorial. It doesn't have names on it. Alongside the path we have 4 large monuments, 3 with angels and 1 with an urn. On the first one it says that this is the entrance to the vault of J. Durham. Next to it I can read the name Pomfrey, entrance to vault. The third one, more elaborate design, mounted on 9 pillars, and it mentions on the first inscription Lieutenant, can't quite make that name out, C.F. Hart, Royal Naval Reserve, 1905. And then if we come down to the base we have Commander Charles F. Hart, Royal Naval Reserve, Haven Master of Bristol, 1922. Very elaborate memorial, a woman clinging to the cross, nicely designed on the base. And this is to Lillian, Lily, the only and dearly beloved child of William and Jane Pullin. She was aged 6 years. And behind that one is the column, William Henry Gower, Harry of the White Swan Hotel, Eastville. Well, that's where we are now. He died in 1901, aged 40. My dear son, Lance Corporal W.H. Condick, 7th 8th Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers, who died of wounds received in action, France, March the 21st, 1918, just 20 years old. I noticed that several of the memorials have been laid on their sides. And I say laid, they haven't just been pushed over. Presumably they were unsafe, and they've taken care to lay them carefully on the grave. You can just see the base of one there, perhaps not so carefully on that one. It's quite evident in this graveyard that the stonemasons liked doing angels. It varies dramatically between cemeteries. Sometimes you don't find angels at all, and others, like one in Blackpool I remember, has so many of them. Well, this one has quite a few. This is to Emily Florence, the wife of Herbert Dixon, or Dirksen, and that looks like 1921. Right next door, this is to Robert Holly, another angel, wing spread. This one is to Samuel Britton, who died in 1923. William Thomas Davies, 1932, went for the mourning maiden, distraught, lying with her head on a stone. In memory of Albert Francis, beloved son of William and Florence Buss, aged 18. And then his sister, Iris Dorcas. She died 4 years later, aged 9. And then we have other names beneath there. Over here I can see a war grave in with the other stones. This one is to Sergeant Major T.H. Alford, MSM, Royal Air Force, 1921, aged 42. And close by is one to Volunteer L.L. Mayton, 9th Gloucestershire Battalion of the Home Guard, 16th, 17th of March 1941, aged 51. Once again we're seeing this rather odd infilling of new graves, which are actually laid on what used to be a path through the cemetery. See it curving away there. Well, there's quite a lot to see in this cemetery. It's quite a good size. Doesn't feel as though it's really cared for that well. I know we've got a dull day, but it just feels a little bit neglected and uncared for. One of the modern graves, this one's well looked after. Emma Baker, née Mancuso, of Calabria, Italy, and she's got the Bristol Bulldogs Speedway team on the right hand side of that memorial. On this grave, this plot, we have a war memorial, but it's interesting to see it has two names on it. The first one is C.T. Hynam, able seaman, 1917, and then Corporal W.H. Warlock, 1919. Now the fact they're in the same grave would surely indicate their close relationship. Be interesting to know what the connection was between these two. Well, here we can see the laying over the monuments on their backs has become quite epidemic. A lot of stones here are no longer upright. You do wonder whether it's strictly necessary. It seems to become quite common now. There was the unfortunate case some years ago of a 8-year-old boy in Glasgow who was killed when a statue fell on him. But it turned out that he was actually jumping from trees to statues and was playing in the graveyard. And it seems to me that should not be happening anyway. You wouldn't let your child play on the motorway and expect them to remain safe. So why would you expect your child to play in a graveyard and for them to be safe? I know a number of cemeteries that have taken a different attitude to these large stones, which can move and can fall. They just put up very clear notices saying you enter at your own risk and on no account let your children play amongst the stones. And I think that's a much better solution than laying them all over like this. We're just destroying our history by doing it this way. Across on the far side of the cemetery is an area to remember the civilians who died in the Second War, almost certainly from bombing raids on the city of Bristol, which was a very important naval base. And here we see the rows of stones to those people who died. That's on the right hand side of the path. And if I pan round, there are more. Rather nice way of remembering people who died in their homes, often in their sleep. And if we just look at a few of the stones, Lily Verlon, 28th of August. John D. Sherman, age 12, 28th of August. John Foley, 28th of August. Willie T. Hescock, 28th of August. Albert Williams, January 4th, 1941. Muriel Buchan, January the 4th, 1941. Rose Webster, 4th of January, 1941. Just an approximate count. I'm looking at around 160 memorials in this area to those civilians. And of course these would have been just in this area of Bristol, not in the whole of Bristol. There would have been many more lives lost. And amongst all these civilian graves are some war graves, Commonwealth war graves. These were Home Guard people that died in the same raids. 25th of September 1940, T. Stevens and J. Silcock. This one stands out because of the white stone and all the additions that have been made with cherubs or little angels. The top name is Alan Gordon Adams, 1935, aged 5 months. And then underneath Lillian Grace Addicott, his sister, 1937, aged 23. This one particularly stands out with all the care and attention that's been given to the flowers. The first name is Robert Nabb, killed by enemy action in 1941, and then his father and mother are listed beneath. Interesting one to Pilot Officer Jack Wilkins from his fellow workmates at the BAC. That will be the British Aircraft Company, very important employer here down at Filton. No dates on that at all. And at the front, in memory of Pilot Officer J. Wilkins from his neighbours. And again, no dates. This reads to Corporal Victor Carr, Royal Marines, the beloved son of Alfred and Winifred Carr, accidentally killed 13th of November, aged 23. And then we have his parents. And yet when we come to the front of the stone, in loving memory of Linda Jane Helps, SRN, State Registered Nurse, loved one of Kenneth Helps, who was tragically taken from us 1982, aged 26. Well, I'm going to draw this one to a conclusion. It's not been the most interesting of cemeteries, and it doesn't seem to be as cared for as it should be. But there's still plenty to have a look at, so don't cross it off your list. Do come and have a look at it. Till the next time.